I never thought I'd tell you this, but here I am with the courage to confess the most secret, forbidden, and complicated night of my life. That day, the day everything changed, I thought it would just be about not spending my 64th birthday alone, but there was so much more behind Edward's desire not to leave me alone. The pull between us, those forbidden feelings, and everything we'd suppressed for years could never truly be ignored. And that day was when all of it came to a head. Let me tell you everything from the beginning. Edward was Jonathan's stepson. Now, at 28, he's confident, determined, and someone who could captivate me at first glance. In the year Jonathan passed away, he used to visit often, sometimes staying with me for days. But 2 years ago, he disappeared without a word. During his absence, the moments we shared stayed locked in the deepest corners of my mind. I tried to forget about him, to push those memories away, but I couldn't. And then that day came. He appeared at my door. He said he needed to look for some documents in the garage, but I knew immediately that he hadn't come just for that. Edward's gaze was the same as before, the kind that stirred up all the emotions I had buried deep within myself, leaving me utterly unprepared. When he smiled at me, holding some papers in his hand, I realized there was more to this visit, and I was right. The gramophone he'd placed in the garage, the one I'd always wanted even when Jonathan was alive, was sitting there with my favorite record on it. The documents were just an excuse. This was all about me. The moment I saw that gramophone, my heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. Later, Edward left without saying much, but that evening he came back with a cake in his hand. That familiar smile was still there, but now it held something deeper. "I didn't want you to spend your 64th birthday alone, Bella," he said, and I realized then that this was about so much more than a birthday celebration. Edward was about to give me a night I could have never imagined. That night, everything changed, and now I'll tell you every detail. When I opened the door and saw Edward standing there, I was unprepared for what I saw. This wasn't just a casual visit, I could feel it instantly. He was holding a delicate cake and dressed in a sharp suit. The smile on his face was different, more meaningful, more intense. Edward, now 28, carried a maturity that blended with the energy of his youth, making him impossibly captivating. "Happy birthday, Bella," he said, his voice warm enough to fill the entire doorway. His words both surprised me and stirred something indescribable in my chest. He had remembered my birthday. For the first time, someone had come to celebrate with such care. "I didn't want you to turn 64 alone," he added, his enchanting smile growing. "Tonight should be special." If this story resonates with you, join my channel, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear more. Trust me, this will. I'll be one of the most thrilling stories you ever heard. I wanted to say something, but the words caught in my throat. Edward placed the cake on the coffee table and stepped closer to me. "But Bella," he said, his eyes scanning me gently, "tonight could be so much more special. Let's celebrate it properly in a way you deserve. Go put on a nice dress and let's make this a night to remember." At first, I thought about refusing, but his gentle yet insistent gaze made it impossible. I nodded slightly and walked upstairs. As I climbed the stairs, a strange excitement coursed through me. When I opened my wardrobe, my eyes caught the black dress I hadn't worn in years. I ran my fingers over the fabric and walked over to the mirror. Before putting on the dress, I slipped off my t-shirt, standing bare before my reflection. My skin was still firm and youthful. I traced my waist with my hands, leaned slightly forward, and studied my shoulders. "I'm truly captivating," I murmured to myself. I was 64 years old, but it seemed like I had somehow defied the passage of time. Smiling to myself, I slid the dress on, feeling genuinely special in that moment. As I descended the stairs, a familiar melody floated from the living room, reaching my ears. It was my favorite song. My steps slowed, and my heart began to race. How did Edward know? I had never mentioned it to him. Confused but intrigued, I made my way toward the living room. Edward had set up the gramophone in the middle of the room and had carefully chosen the record to play. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. The admiration on his face spoke volumes, even though he didn't say a word. "How did you know?" I asked, unable to hide my surprise. Edward smiled softly, his gaze unwavering. "I listened to you, Bella," he said. "You probably thought you were the one always listening to me, but in truth, I was listening to you. Every detail you mentioned, every passion you shared, I remembered it all." His words filled me with warmth. It had been so long since I felt truly seen, truly heard. Edward stepped closer, extending his hand toward me. "Let tonight be all about you, Bella. I'm here to make you feel special." As the melody filled the room, I couldn't deny the depth and determination I saw in his eyes. We sat down and started talking, but this wasn't an ordinary conversation. It was laced with all the feelings and emotions we had suppressed for so long. The pull between us grew stronger with every passing second. Edward's voice broke through the air, deep and full of emotion. "Do you know why I didn't come back before, Bella?" His question caught me off guard, and my eyes locked onto his emerald gaze, trying to decipher where this was going. He paused for a moment, as if carefully selecting his words. "I've always been drawn to you," he finally admitted, his voice soft yet powerful enough to fill the room. "I saw the desire, the passion, the excitement inside you. I always saw it, but what I felt scared me. Bella, I knew I couldn't being around you. My body wanted to run to you, but my mind kept telling me it was wrong." His words sent a wave of warmth through me, but also a swirl of confusion. My heart began pounding wildly, but I knew I had to keep myself composed. Taking a steady breath, I looked at him. "Edward, you shouldn't say this," I replied, though the tremor in my voice betrayed my emotions. "I know I shouldn't," he said, lowering his head slightly. But then he raised his eyes to meet mine again, and the intensity in his gaze rooted me in place. "But I can't hold it in anymore, Bella. For 2 years, I haven't been able to get you out of my mind. Your eyes, your smile, everything about you has haunted me. Wherever I went, I saw you. My heart wouldn't let me forget." The honesty in his confession both startled and deeply excited me. My hands were clasped tightly in my lap, and I realized they were trembling. "Edward, this isn't right," I said, though I couldn't deny the magnetic pull I felt toward him, the connection between us. "It's not right." Edward leaned slightly closer, bending his knees where he sat, tilting toward me. His eyes were filled with a deep determination. "Right or wrong," he said, his voice low but resolute, "I can't deny what I feel, and neither can you, Bella. Your eyes tell me everything. You know this connection between us is real." For a moment, I was silent because he was right. This pull between us had always been there, a bond one had tried to ignore for years, feelings I didn't want to acknowledge, but that had grown stronger, pulling me in more and more. Now, in his gaze and his words, it all echoed back at me. "Thank you for not leaving me alone that day," I finally said, my voice tight with emotion. "But Edward, this is dangerous. If we go further, neither of us will be able to turn back." Edward slowly reached out, placing his fingers over mine. His touch shattered every logical barrier I had built. "I don't want to turn back, Bella," he said. "I just want to live this moment with you, to show you how I feel, to tell you how special you are to me." Tears welled up in my eyes, but these feelings didn't break me, they freed something deep inside. His words were an admission of a passion he had kept locked away for too long. "When I look at you," he continued, his voice soft yet intense, "I don't just see beauty, I see strength, passion, and a joy for life. You think you're 64, but to me, you've always been the youngest, most captivating woman, and those feelings, they'll never change." His words broke through the last of my resistance. I took a deep breath and looked at him. "Edward," I said, my voice trembling but leaning toward him, "you see me in a way I haven't felt in years, and I can't deny that." The silence that followed was heavy, yet it said everything. We just looked at each other, and in that quiet, every unspoken truth was revealed. The forbidden pull between us had become undeniable, irreversible. When Edward's lips finally met mine, every suppressed feeling erupted. The emotion I had came rushing to the surface. His kiss was filled with a passion that forced me to confront all the feelings I had hidden for years. But the intensity of it also scared me. The logical part of me was still fighting, telling me I shouldn't give in. Suddenly, I pulled away, taking a deep breath. "Edward," I whispered, my voice trembling. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to say. Lost in his gaze, I felt my control slipping. My heart pounded as I stepped back, wanting to put space between us. Without another word, I hurried toward my bedroom. When I shut the door behind me, I turned to face the mirror. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes brimming with excitement and confusion. My hands were still trembling slightly. "What am I doing?" I whispered to myself. But deep down, there was a voice that couldn't be silenced, a voice driven by an overwhelming desire. I looked at the mirror more closely, studying the faint lines on my face, the hints of age. But then my eyes trailed down to my still firm, youthful body. "I still have it," I murmured, a small conflicted smile forming on my lips. Yet somehow, that realization only made things more complicated. Just then, I heard the soft creak of the door. I turned around and saw Edward's determined gaze as he stepped inside. He didn't take his eyes off me as he closed the door behind him and moved closer. "Bella," he said, his voice low but resolute. "I can't let you run away." I looked at him, but I couldn't say anything. Edward closed the distance between us, and once again, his lips pressed against mine. This kiss deepened, everything pulling me further into a place I had no control over. My defenses, one by one, were crumbling. I couldn't hold myself back any longer. My hands instinctively reached for his shoulders. Edward wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me even closer. His warmth enveloped my entire body, and my breathing quickened. His kisses trailed from my lips to my neck and then down to my shoulders. My body, without hesitation, responded to his every touch. Yet the intensity of this forbidden desire completely consumed me. I stepped back slightly, not to run, but to catch my breath. Slowly, I reached for the straps of my dress, sliding them off my shoulders. The fabric silently fell to the floor, pooling at my feet. I glanced briefly at my reflection in the mirror and felt a surge of courage rise within me. "Edward," I whispered, my voice barely audible, "I am surrendering to you." Those words lit something in his eyes, a fire that was impossible to ignore. Edward began unbuttoning his shirt, his fingers moving quickly, almost impatiently. When he shrugged it off, revealing his strong, athletic body, my heart raced even faster as I watched him take a step closer. Every part of me gravitated toward him. Edward placed his hands on my waist again, guiding me gently toward the bed. When I lay down, he joined me, his presence filling every space around me. His kisses started at my neck, moving down to my shoulders, further exploring every part of me with every touch. He awakened emotions and passions that had been buried deep inside me for years. This moment was the beginning of a night I never could have imagined, and I knew without a doubt that nothing would ever be the same again. Everything was happening so fast that my heart felt like it might burst out of my chest. I looked at Edward, unable to hide the confusion and depth of my desire. "I never could have dreamed of this," I said, breathless. "But right now, more than anything, I want this. I am so excited and full of desire." Edward tilted his head slightly, a soft but determined smile spreading across his lips. "Bella," he said, his voice calm yet so deeply captivating it held me in place. "We both always wanted this, but every time we ran from it. Not tonight. Tonight we're not running anywhere." At that moment, Edward's words shattered the last of my defenses. I no longer cared where this night would take us. I was ready to lose myself in the moment. Something immense surged within me, so powerful it made me close my eyes and grab the sheet with one hand and the edge of the bedside table with the other. The intensity of it left me breathless, my eyes remaining shut for 2 or 3 minutes as I tried to focus only on what I was feeling. When I finally opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, Edward was leaning over me. His hair was disheveled, and his forehead glistened lightly with sweat. Just as I was thinking, "This is perfect," Edward reached out and pressed his hand over mine on the bed. Everything felt like a dream, so surreal yet so vivid. When I glanced toward the mirror and caught sight of both of us in that state, I couldn't hold back any longer. My legs tensed with such an overwhelming force I felt as if I might faint. This was a desire and passion I had never experienced before, and I was utterly surprised by my own reactions. And then there was Edward, so breathtaking, and I could hardly believe he was real. His cheeks were flushed, and he was showering me with compliments. My voice trembled as I whispered, "Edward, you're incredible. Truly, I never want this night to end." I could see the excitement in his eyes growing even more. With my other hand, I reached out and placed it over his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. "I've always wanted you," I admitted, barely believing the words myself. "I can't believe this is happening." I closed my eyes again, surrendering to the warmth spreading through me. At that exact moment, an intense heat filled my entire being. Edward, his breath uneven, collapsed beside me. Edward sat up with a determined expression on his face and reached for his phone. Turning to me, he unlocked the screen with his fingers. "Bella, I want to show you something," he said. When he turned the phone toward me, my eyes widened instantly. It was a picture of a cottage by the lake, a small, cozy, and peaceful place, exactly the kind of place I had always dreamed of. "I want to take you here," he said, his voice both serious and full of desire. "Far away from everyone else in this house, just the two of us. Tomorrow morning, we'll go see this place, and when we're there, I'll ask you to wear something I've chosen for you. Because tonight, I saw the woman I've always dreamed of. That woman is you, Bella. It's always been you." His words sent a storm through me, and my heart began to race. I looked at him, completely at a loss for words. This wasn't just a one-night story, this was a doorway to something so much more. And while I didn't know what awaited us beyond that door, for the first time, I wasn't afraid because I wasn't stepping through it alone. There's more to come, and this is only the beginning. If you've made it this far, I know this story has deeply touched you. There's so much more to share, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Don't forget to hit the follow button, turn on notifications, and leave a comment about this story. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, so let's talk in the comments. Your support means the world to me.